Hey, welcome to Charlotte Sports Report. I'm Dalton Beard.
And I'm Justin Jeffers.
Today, the latest on Lance Stephenson's arrival in Charlotte and MJ's comments on Michael Jordan wearing number 23 again.
Hey, and it's also football season, Panthers fans. We got our first preseason game this week, a live look in at Wofford College, and an injury update for you.
And going into college football, the latest on all your powerhouse teams starting new quarterbacks and the college football playoff. All that and more on Charlotte Sports Report.
Let's start the report!
This is Charlotte Sports Report, episode Beta 2, recorded Monday, July 28th, 2014. Enjoy.
The latest buzz regarding the Charlotte Hornets has to be the new addition of shooting guard Lance Stephenson. The Hornets were able to get Lance Stephenson for 3 years, $27 million, and lure him away from the Pacers. Now, Justin, with Lance Stephenson coming to play for Charlotte, he'll come in and be the guy. I mean, this is a special player. You talk about great defense. The guy's a walking triple-double. Yeah,
and I mean, you can see he's a freak. He brings an energy with him that's really charismatic with his his players, the guys that play with him. He's a fun guy to be around, it seems. He brings the defense to a whole new level.
And a bit of that nastiness as well. You know, Lance is a guy that tries to get under your skin. We all seen that with LeBron, and it didn't really work out that well for Lance, but that's not going to work out for a lot of guys when you're facing the best player in the world.
Right, and that's his role night in and night out, is to see the best players in the world and D them up. That's his job, and he's good at it. He can get under your skin. He can play the mental game. He can play the physical game. He's got a very great set of skills that he brings to the table. So it's going to be exciting to see him on the court for the Hornets.
Certainly a player that can bring a lot of production and give you a lot of minutes night in and night out. Lance being a young player, as well as Paul George, I really didn't feel they meshed well in Indiana. I feel like both guys are really above par when you talk about their skill set at the shooting guard position. So now to see him somewhere else, especially here in Charlotte, it has me excited.
Yeah, and it hurts to see players go when it happens to you, but something like this, that's got to make you feel good. It's got to let you know, and in my opinion, with our ownership, we're up there on that level that New York's got. I feel like the guy calling the shots for us, he's got a brain on him too, and he knows how to get the jewelry. So I feel like, the players coming and going, that's going to happen, and it's just a roller coaster ride of emotions this time of year in the NBA to watch all that happening.
Well, it's been an exciting offseason if you are a Hornets fan, bringing the buzz back. We're getting back the old mascot, the old team name, but a new feel to the city of Charlotte. And when you talk about that team, I think a lot of the fans feel the same way. Kemba returning, Big Al, who is unguardable in my opinion, and you also pick up P.J. Harrison from North Carolina. Let's hope his problems off the court can get settled and he can be a main contributor for the team. And now you bring in a guy like Lance Stephenson who has that star power, that swagger, and that ability to give you the best production probably over any player that's going to come on the court for the Hornets next year.
Right, and even with Lance's rocky past with the Pacers, where they people were saying that team that just doesn't have a good vibe around them. Yeah. He knows what it takes to get to that playoff level of basketball and to win the playoff level of basketball, and it's going to be great having him. Like you said, Big Al is a force. People don't realize it, but he's averaged a quiet 32 points a game last year.
Yeah. And
Kemba, he is so quick, so fast.
The human blur, he really is.
And can deliver the ball anywhere on the court that he wants to. Anytime he can thread that needle, get the ball where it needs to be. We've got some shooters on the outside. We've lost a couple of bigger guys. McRoberts is gone.
Going to Miami.
That's going to hurt, but we're going to find a way with some speedy defensive guys, it looks like, to make a real transition in our whole game, I feel like.
Well, I feel like the roster as a whole, we are a young team. Lance Stephenson being one of the older guys, when you think about it, other than Al, coming into that starting lineup, you got Kemba, who is very young, 23 years old. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, only a couple of seasons out of high school. I really think this next season, the season coming up for the Hornets, will be his year.
Right, and I like to harp about the guys that are teaching them. Our coach is amazing. He won the conference coach of the year this year, so he's great. The guys in the head office, you can't do better than Michael Jordan. I mean, he brings you everything you need in experience. He's been under the best of the best, and it was a rough start for him, if you remember the beginning of his career. You know, he didn't just come out and start winning. He had to go through some learning curve there in the process, just like everyone else. And I feel like we've got a great foundation here in Charlotte, and the Hornets are back. I was here when they were, you know, the old Hornets with Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, and it's exciting to have them back with all new stuff, new floors, new building. It's going to be awesome. They're downtown now, so I'm excited.
Add Patrick Ewing to the mix. You know, what a great assistant coach you have there. I think it's only a matter of time before he finally gets his break and is able to get a head coaching job somewhere.
Well, hopefully some of his physicality that he brought as a player, he can rub off on some of our players, because I'd love to see that brand of basketball.
Speaking of the leadership of the Hornets, one thing I'd like to touch up on, Michael Jordan was quoted after, you know, the news coming out with LeBron. He's going back to his old number in Cleveland, 23, which coming into the league, you know, he wore that number in high school. He wore the 23. Coming into Cleveland, idolizing Michael Jordan, wore 23.
Who didn't back then, you know?
Exactly. My only thing is, you know, anytime a player wears that number, you're always going to be compared to Michael. Michael had this to say, though. He was quoted. Michael said that he's cool with it. He doesn't own a number. And, you know, Michael Jordan is just one of the coolest cats out there, especially, you know, in basketball.
Right.
He's won it all.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't know, Michael and his family are here from North Carolina. His grandmother actually lived right down the road here on 85 on your way out of town. They have roots here, and I wasn't surprised to see immediately when Michael Jordan retired, he bought a golf course here, driving range, you know, right near the basketball stadium. So I knew he was going to plant and make his fingerprint, you know, stamped on the Charlotte area. And I couldn't ask for a better person to watch, entertainment-wise, you know, making good decisions.
Yeah.
They're not a hothead. He's really patient, you know, about what he does. And like you said, he's got Ewing. He's got other great guys around him. You surround yourself with greatness, and you're going to produce greatness. So that's what we're hoping for here with the Hornets.
I agree. And, you know, going back, touching up on the story with LeBron, going back to 23, I'm a little against that for LeBron. I don't think it's in his best interest. You know, leaving Cleveland, he was a great player. He had already established himself as one of the best in the league. Going to Miami, switches his number to number 6, and, you know, won. He really won with that number 6. Won two championships
it was like a
in that
changed
number
man.
6 jersey.
Yeah.
And now he's going to go back to the 23. I will say something about Michael Jordan's 23, though. When Michael Jordan was wearing 23, he won 6 titles, 6 MVPs. I mean, there's just not much you can say about Michael Jordan. And I feel like LeBron going back to that, it's just going to compare him to Michael Jordan even more so than he already
and
is.
that's unfair to himself. But you know what? LeBron has shocked us. LeBron has always played at a different level, and he gets better every year, in my opinion. He finds some facet of his game that he can improve every year,
I agree.
and he improves it. So if anybody is worthy, you know, it's like NASCAR racing. Nobody's racing around in that 3 car anymore because it was Big E's, you know. But now I feel like LeBron, maybe he should have the right to wear that.
Well,
So-
it's just funny to me because, you know, 2 years ago, LeBron was quoted as saying no one should be able to wear the number 23 jersey in the NBA. It should be retired. And, you know, obviously that's very far-fetched. And Michael just doesn't care. You know, it's just a number. I feel like Michael Jordan might find it amusing that LeBron wants to go back to his number.
Yeah, it's probably the same thing for Dan Marino and all those guys who have crazy records that people are chasing. You know, Brett Favre, all these legends, they've got guys chasing them, and it's just crazy to see that. You know.
Well, going back to other players that have wore 2 numbers, Kobe Bryant wearing number 8 and number 24. A lot of people don't remember this. Michael Jordan wore 23, also wore number 45.
That's right.
So let's hope 6, 23, and back to 23 can work out for James.
Yeah, I'd love to see Cleveland just get some power in there and see what they can do this season.
Well, that's all we have for NBA. Coming up, Fan Fest with the Carolina Panthers and updates on training camp and the latest on Kelvin Benjamin. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Charlotte Sports Report.
I'm Andre Humphrey, and I'm a logger at ESPNU. The Carolina School of Broadcasting prepared me for my job by providing real-world experience with real-world tools. Well, the internship was great for me because it was a direct, smooth transition to the real world. The avid and Edius software that we use at WBTV is the exact same system that you use at ESPN, so it was a smooth transition to what I do in the real world.
FanFest was last Friday, and you know what that means. Football season is among us. That's right, it's training camp, day 3 right now for the Carolina Panthers. And Justin, a lot of excitement around this team.
Yeah, FanFest kicks it off. Friday evening, the stadium was packed with fans. They ran a practice. A few scary moments in that practice, actually. With Kelvin Benjamin, we were unsure what happened with him. Glad to report that is a minor injury, nothing
Bone
structural.
Bruise. Yeah, it's going to be a bone bruise, nothing structural. They had a precautionary MRI just to go ahead and get that out of the way. No big scare for all you Panther fans out there. I know a lot of guys are really excited about Kelvin Benjamin, especially with the departure of Steve Smith. You need that bell cow, so to speak, at the wide receiver position. I think he can be that his rookie year for the Panthers.
Right, and that's the first thing Cam came out and addressed. That's really the first thing everybody addressed in their conferences today was that the injuries are not career-threatening right now. They're just normal injuries, getting your body back into the wear and tear of football. And that's good, to hear the coach come out and say that and to hear the team is gelling well. They're hitting the ground running. They're going to be, with leadership. Most of the key leaders are still in place, minus Steve Smith. So we got Greg Olsen. We got Byron Bell moving over to left tackle, who's, he's naturally left-handed, so that could be a great transition for him. And Cam is, proving himself off of this ankle injury. He's just really taking this time to get himself back mentally prepared and to meet the guys around him and start that unity. And they feel like they're already where they stopped last year.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a big year, a big test year for Cam. He's had the stats coming in, still yet to have a playoff win. I think that's going to be the next goal for the Panthers. But, this year has to be it for Cam as far as that leadership goes. You lose such a chunk of that offense and such a chunk of that leadership in the locker room with Steve Smith leaving. And I think Cam has to be that guy. I think he can be that guy, but this year is really going to be crucial because you got a lot of new faces, especially when it comes to his receiving core. So he's going to have to kick it up a notch in the leadership department.
Right, and that's where we're going to depend a lot on Jericho Cotchery and Jason Avant. Those guys coming in and filling that veteran wide receiver role is going to be huge.
Yeah.
So, we've got 12 guys out at wide receiver right now. One of them actually a Wofford graduate and a player from there. You check that out. He
should feel right at home then.
Yeah, he's right at home. He's
training camp in Spartanburg.
He said he was giving tours. He said he was giving tours around the campus, showing the guys the routes and everything so they know where to get a cold beverage, things like that. So it's interesting, and they're going to be down to 6,
Yeah.
You got to get your receivers down to 5 or 6 before, on that last cut, the 52-man roster. So it's going to be interesting to see who stays and who goes. But Cam says he loves the team unity, and everybody's just trying to build a good product for us.
Another thing, D'Angelo Williams looks to be in top form and is starting to embrace that role as the backup running back. Mike Tolbert having such a big year that he had last year going to the Pro Bowl, I feel like he needs to be the guy for the Panthers right now. D'Angelo getting a little age on him. And you could almost say the same for Tolbert, who came from San Diego, but right now he seems to be the more consistent back for the Panthers. And with their offense, I think he really fits that mold. More of a power back. Mike Tolbert's a guy that can play all 3 downs. You can have him on the field every play of the game. And I think that's crucial. And, his pass blocking also comes into play. He's a 250-pound running back. Well, I guess you could say 238-pound running back now. He's lost a little bit of weight. He says he feels great. He says he's in the best shape of his life, but he hasn't lost any of that punch.
Right, and that's always been his claim to fame is you get inside 5 yards, and it shouldn't take him more than 2 tries.
Yeah, and you don't want to square up with a guy like Mike Tolbert. He will take you to the ground.
Right, yeah, and he delivers the blow as a ball carrier. The NFL's trying to put a wrap on that a little bit and constrict those guys a little bit so they're not leading with their heads and things. But if he can do it clean and he can do it at the weight he's at now, I think that we should have another great season inside that red zone.
Well, I think the guy is a true load when you talk about a bruiser from the running back position. As you said, he really initiates contact a lot of the times. I'm sure a lot of middle linebackers hate to hit this guy. Okay. And, he's such a great asset coming into the passing game too. Out of the backfield, he is such a load. And, when you get that guy that catches the ball in the middle of the field and you only have a safety to stop him, I'm going to have to go with Tolbert.
Right. And, you're not going to You're not going to come flying into the backfield on Tolbert and expect not to get hit. He's not going to hit you in the feet. He's going to hit you in the head.
Right.
And he's going to hit you in the chest. He's going to square you up. But going back to D'Angelo, I feel like D'Angelo is accepting that number 2 role. And with that, he's going to get a lot more of those specialty plays, those screens that are specifically for him. He's going to have his own package, as well as the full offense.
Speaking of running backs, Jonathan Stewart placed on IR once again. Seems to be the story of his life. Coming into the league out of Oregon, such a special player. Now it seems he just cannot stay healthy. And speaking from the Panthers organization, I think it's time to cut ties with Jonathan Stewart.
Yeah, it's sad to say, but ever since he landed that Pepsi deal, he's been hurt,
Yeah.
And this was just, for me right away, I was mad. I was like, John, come on, you can't be hurt again, man.
Yeah.
It's just not in the cards. And he does tie up a lot of our money. We pay him a lot of money to be on the football field. The great news is, though, that his injuries now, the 2 that he is dealing with, neither one of them are career-ending.
Yeah, hamstring. Right now he's suffering from a hamstring injury that he, tweaked a little in the New Orleans game last year, the first time they met.
And it was also the ankle in that, too.
Yeah.
Did some tweaking on that ankle. And he's just been fighting through that. And I think the Panthers, more than other teams in the NFL, have a little more tendency to let these guys linger because of the success we've had with Sam Mills, Thomas Davis. You let these guys fight back. And look at Chase Blackburn, cancer survivor.
Yeah.
We've got him on our squad, and he's doing amazing
Coming
things.
out of Boston College, the fact that him and Luke Kuechly both in that same linebacking core, that is going to be trouble. Add that along with Thomas Davis. And then you look down on the line with Greg Hardy. A little bit about Greg Hardy. He's going through a lot of off-field issues.
Oh, yeah. Started last year.
Well, the speculation of that domestic violence, all that's starting to tie together. But I feel like it's bringing this team closer. Greg Hardy did go out and say he hates being a distraction right now. And unfortunately, that's what he is. But I feel like the team is rallying behind him, and I feel like Greg's going to have a great year.
Right. He's just, his number's 58 sacks. And, he didn't say that he was going to match that this year, but he said that he would like to get a number up there and make it, an admirable, solid season where we're looking for him to be our anchor on defense. He's the one guy that we put your franchise tag on you. Yeah. We shouldn't have to coach you and walk you and hold your hand the way that some of these younger guys are. So we're still looking to him for leadership, and it's going to be interesting, especially, like you said, with Chase Blackburn and that BC College with Luke Kuechly. Kuechly is a beast. Nobody wants to play him. That's been stated. Yeah. He's only been in the league 2 years, and that's his stamp.
I think Kuechly may be the best middle linebacker in the NFL. I think any team would be crazy to pass him up if they had an opportunity to land him. One special thing about Kuechly, his motor. I've watched the guy on TV. I've seen him in person at Panther games. When you watch him in person, you can truly appreciate how fast this guy is. Mm-hmm. He is literally all over the field every play.
And there's no wasted movements.
No wasted motion. And when you look at the guy's hips in pass coverage, he's almost as sound as a majority of your corners in the league. Mm-hmm. The guy is really a difference maker on defense. I'm excited to see what he does this year.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. That whole defensive unit, Coach Rivera, he said that some of the DBs, they're coming together in a new system. They're learning new positions. Some of them getting bounced around. They're getting dirty eyes, as he called them. They like to look in the backfield, and they're getting beat deep. You can't do that in this league.
Well, that's going to happen in training camp. A lot of these guys trying to knock off the rust, so to speak, and get prepared for the season. One guy that I seen they cut, Daquan Minzy, an Alabama grad. I hate to see that, but we have another player there, Robert Lester. I expect big things from Robert Lester this year.
Well, guys, our first preseason game is this Friday night. It's going to be 7:30 at Panther Stadium against the Bills. So we'll be there.
All right, guys, coming up, more college football news. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Charlotte Sports Report.
I'm the station manager here at the Carolina School of Broadcasting, and this is our on-air studio for our student-run radio station. You may know some of our graduates.
I'm Mark Seidel. I'm a producer and board op on WFNZ.
Brandon Pollock, go by Brandon Chase, and I do afternoons for WKQC.
Travis Hancock, I'm the producer for the Mac Attack Morning Show.
Hey, I'm Kate Hall, and I am on air with WKQC K104.7.
Spend your life in HD, only at the Carolina School of Broadcasting.
Carolina School of Broadcasting, go!
31 days until the kickoff of college football. The first game between Texas A&M and South Carolina on August 28th. Followed by that, August 30th, the Chick-fil-A Classic, West Virginia, Alabama, and that will be the first Saturday of this new season. And Justin, it is so wide open this year regarding powerhouse teams starting inexperienced quarterbacks. I think this coming year of college football is going to be so wide open in that sense because a lot of these guys just don't have an answer right now.
Yeah, and that's the difference, I think, in the college level to the NFL level. It's hard to throw a guy into the NFL and just, first year doesn't know the playbook. That's really hard.
Yeah.
But in college, you got so many other guys, and they're playing for so many different reasons that they kind of fall into the form. They get studying. They just gel with their guys a little quicker.
Yeah.
And that's because they all come from different places, and they've all been doing the same thing. The guys who know it, they know it. And the guys who don't, they're learning together and helping each other most of the time.
I think this first weekend of college football is going to answer a lot of questions for a lot of teams. You look at Clemson and Georgia opening up August 30th, the same day as Alabama, West Virginia. Texas A&M, South Carolina, opening up August 28th. All of those teams are coming in with new quarterbacks. And the only one that I feel is a little bit of an exception to that would be South Carolina. Connor Shaw had such a great year last year, but you did see a lot of Dylan Thompson. So Thompson coming in, he's comfortable with the playbook. The fans know him. The players respond well with him. The receivers are on the same page with this guy. I expect a lot of big things for Dylan Thompson. I think he has a better arm than Connor Shaw. But moving on to the Georgia-Clemson game, I think that one's interesting. Because Georgia coming in with a new quarterback, Hudson Mason, Aaron Murray had such an incredible career at Georgia. You look at Aaron Murray and everything he did. The only thing he didn't do was win an SEC championship or a national title. 10 wins every season he was there. The guy was just automatic. And I think, going into a new quarterback, it's going to be a little bit of a shock for that Georgia team, but they have the running game to support it.
Yeah, Georgia's always tough, and their running game is what makes them. They're stable between those hedges, and that's their motto.
Yeah.
They're going to pound the football no matter what. And, that takes a lot of pressure off of your passing game when you can hand the ball up for 4 or 5 yards every time.
Yeah, when you've got Todd Gurley in the backfield, you really have a lot of options.
right. Size, speed, you've got it at Georgia. So I think some of the pressure will be off there. But it's like you said, it's kind of weird to see more than almost half of the SEC starting these freshmen or a couple games under their belt kind of guys. It's
a
just
lot of big powerhouse teams this year in college football have to go that route. And I think we're going to find out a lot, especially in that Clemson-Georgia game. Another thing with Clemson, I think it's Cole Stout's year, but I've read a lot where Deshaun Watson, the 5-star dual-threat quarterback coming out of high school last year, who also enrolled early and got that spring training under his belt, I've read to where he's expected to get about 400 snaps this year, and he's expected to get playing time in that first game against Georgia.
And with their head coach, as charismatic as he is, you don't know what's going on down there in Clemson.
Yeah. I like Dabo, Alabama guy. Dabo, I think he's doing a lot of good things for Clemson other than that BCS game against West Virginia. That was rough.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I know you were happy with that. 70 points. That's
but
great.
It stinks when you got friends playing against your team. I had the middle linebacker there playing against them, and I was just watching my friends play. I was like, all right, that's enough, boys. Put the brakes on.
Well, going into this year, Cole Stout, I think he has all the weapons and tools that he needs to succeed for Clemson. But something about Deshaun Watson, bringing on that extra dynamic of his game, the running ability. How do you leave that on the bench? I think that's going to be a hard thing for Dabo to do. I think he comes in, I think he plays early, and I think he plays well. Halfway through the season, I would not be surprised to see Deshaun Watson overtake Cole Stout for that starting position.
Watson's going to give you so much more stress on the defense. He's not just going to be looking to pass, he's going to be looking to run. And, you're going to have to keep your front four trained, not getting too deep, not getting out of their gaps, because he'll take off on you.
Yeah, well, one thing that kind of worries me with Deshaun Watson, he's 18. He's coming right out of high school, and the first college atmosphere, first college speed he's going to see is SEC Georgia defenders.
Right.
And that's going to be tough.
It's going to be a shock right away.
And the first time he gets hit, I'm anxious to see how he handles that adversity, how he's able to come back after his first interception. And it's just, time will tell with Clemson. Time will tell with Georgia. but a lot on the line for a lot of these big teams, including Texas A&M. How do you replace Johnny Manziel?
Oh, how do you replace his receivers? You know, how do you replace the left tackle? That was a team that was robbed by the NFL this year. Guys left earlier than they should have. They had a lot of talent on that team that, you know, obviously they're going to go on to have great careers in the NFL, but there's 3 or 4 guys that you can think of in the first 2 rounds that are detrimental losses to that football team.
Yeah, when you talk about guys leaving early, as an Alabama fan, I see that a lot. I think it's more of a decision as far as these coaches need to talk to these kids and just kind of talk to them. If you come back to school, if it has a possibility of hurting your draft stock, you should go to the league. If you're a projected number 1 player at your position, you should go.
Right. We don't need any more of the Jadeveon Clowney extravaganza from last year. Where is he going to play this week? Is he not going to play that week? That gives us too much to do.
Yeah, well, especially looking at quarterbacks. You can only hurt your draft stock. You look at Matt Barkley. If he would have came out his junior year, foregone his senior season, the guy was projected to go number 1 overall, easily the number 1 quarterback. He waits 1 more year. USC has a down year. They lose 6 games. Boom, this guy goes in the 3rd or the 4th round. I believe it was the 4th round to the Eagles.
I couldn't tell you I'm not a fan.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, Matt Barkley, and, you know, you see a lot of that with these guys that stay a year early, a year too long. All you can do is hurt your draft stock.
And
now,
if an injury comes into play, it's over sometimes.
The NFL draft is so, what have you done for me lately? You look at Marquise Lee, his sophomore year, 1,800 receiving yards.
Wow.
He gets hurt, only has about 300, 400 yards the next year, falls to the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Easily the most pro-ready receiver coming out of the draft last year.
We were looking, me and you talking, thinking he would be a great pickup for the Panthers with their first pick. And they went with Kelvin Benjamin, you know, but he was an all-star receiver, just to stand out every week. And to see him not go that, like what you're saying, is just crazy.
And another team that's going to have to start a new quarterback, obviously, Alabama, West Virginia. I know we've talked about it. Both these guys are going to have to start new guys, and both guys, ironically, are going to be transfers from Florida State. I'm looking forward to it. At the same time, it scares me, but this year for college football really has me excited. I think it's really wide open. We couldn't have a better year for the start of the playoffs.
Right, that's the goal, and I think they're setting it up right away. You know, with the rankings that were issued, with the players that did leave for the NFL, we are looking at an amazing college football season. It always is. I see a ton of overtime in our future.
Yeah. Well, the playoffs are among us, and so is college football, guys. 31 days, 33 till August 30th. We'll be here to cover that, the Chick-fil-A Classic. Well, guys, I want to thank you for being with us. For Justin Jeffers, I'm Dalton Bearden. We'll see you next week on Charlotte Sports Report.